Okay, good afternoon everyone. I think we can start already, ano? Sorry for uh, sending you the link so late. Medyo nagkaka-aberya ako dito sa aking presentation. Hindi ko siya mai-present. But to cut the time, no? We will just proceed with our discussion despite wala pa yung aking presentation. But anyway, I will be sending the update na lang doon sa ating module para mag-guide kayo. Okay? Okay na? Pwede na tayong mag-start, guys. So, without further ado, our topic for today or in relation to module 5, we're going to be discussing the state actors on human rights. Ano? Pag sinabi nating state actors, guys, no? These are the different agencies that is tasked or in charge with the protection of the human rights of the citizens living in that specific country. Ano? So dito sa bansa natin, we have the primary commission. We have the primary commission tasked or in charge with the protection of the human rights. Yung mga diniscuss nating rights, no? On our previous discussion, no? Ito yung kanilang functions or duties. Now, they're in charge of the protection of such rights. Now, I am not talking about the Philippine National Police, no? Although lahat ng ahensya ng gobyerno must see to it that all of the rights that we are discussing, mapa-human rights yan, civil rights, political rights, are all respected. No? Now, for the sake of this discussion, we are going to be focusing on the primary state actor on human rights in the Philippines. No? And that is no other than the Commission on Human Rights. No? So the Commission on Human Rights, now we're going to be talking about first the Commission itself, no? The personalities behind the Commission, the composition. Now we're going to be talking also about the history of its creation and the mandates and functions, no? Included na rin dyan yung issues natin with regards to the limitation of functions of the Commission, and lastly the powers, no? Of the Commission on Human Rights. So I know that lagi nating nababanggit or naririnig ang Commission on Human Rights, specifically this past years, on the administration of President Duterte. No? Lagi nating nababanggit or lagi nilang nababanggit ang issues with regards to the human rights violation, at nangunguna na nga dyan sa issues na yan itong tinatawag nating Commission on Human Rights. Sila kumbaga yung isa sa critic ng ating administrasyon in relation to how they handle their drug war and other police operations. No? So the Commission on Human Rights is an independent, it's an independent constitutional office. No? It was created under the 1987 Philippine Constitution, no? With the primary function of investigating all forms of human rights violation involving, sabi nga natin kanina, involving civil, political, and other form of human rights violations in our country. No? Before, no, during the time of the late President Ferdinand Marcos, no, the Commission on there is no such thing as Commission on Human Rights, pero meron silang tinatawag na Committee on Human Rights, no, under the office of the President. But when the ratification of the Constitution was done, no, nung nagpalit or pinalitan yung ating existing Constitution, the Commission on Human Rights was already separated from the office of the President and was created as an independent commission. Ano? Ay yung mga kagaya, for example, ng Commission on Audits, no? Commission on Election, which are an independent commission. No? That's the very nature of the Commission on Human Rights. So separate sila, hindi sila under ng isang office, no? Hindi sila under ng isang branch. No? Their function is primarily to see to it, no, that the human rights violations are being properly addressed, no. They are fighting for the respect or the respect for the human rights of each and every individual. I think this was a good move, no, to separate the Commission on Human Rights so that they can be able to act now independently in terms of investigating alleged human rights violation. Kasi we know for a fact na that minsan is ang human rights violation ay hindi lang kinasasangkutan ito ng ibang tao, but also it can be also yes, it is sometimes na-involved din dito yung mga political parties, yung mga political leaders natin, the government itself, or other agencies of the government, no, such as for example the PNP, no, kaya sila yung laging binabanatan with regards to this because they are in charge, or they are the primary law enforcement body sa ating bansa. We have here some personalities, Jose W. Jokno, no? He was considered as the father of human rights in our country, no? Siya ang ama ng human rights accordingly dito sa ating bansa, no? Jose Jokno is a prominent lawyer, prominent lawyer, and he was the first chairman, no, of the commission. So the commission was created in the year 1987, no? By virtue of the Philippine Constitution, or 1987 Philippine Constitution, and Jose Jokno was the first chairman of the commission that was created. Now, he also founded, hindi lang yun yung kanyang contribution with regards to human rights, but also he founded the premier human rights network, called the Free Legal Assistance Group, or the known for the acronym FLAG, no? Which is a very interesting group as they provide the free legal assistance, especially during the time that alam niyo na, no, medyo mahal, no, mahirap ang kumuha ng abogado, at kung ikaw ay walang kapera-pera at na-involve ka sa isang kaso ay check na hindi mo maproprotektahan yung iyong sarili sa mga litigations sa judicial process natin, no? So that's one of the contribution of Jose Jokno, making him the father of human rights in our country, no? So we have also here the composition, no? The composition of the human rights, the Commission on Human Rights, no, is like this, no? So the commission was composed of chairperson and four members, no? So commissioner, the different commissioner here hold a term of office of 7 years without reappointment. So once they are appointed as commissioner or a member of the Commission on Human Rights, they will not be they will stay with on their position without reappointment for a period of 7 years. So it's longer than the that's actually longer than the term of the president when he is being elected, or other government elected officials, So the Philippine Constitution requires that majority of the member, of the commission must be lawyers, So as you can see that they are talking about human rights, human rights education, freedom from oppression in terms of human rights violation, and all of these things are legal matters, and it is very much it is actually a good move that they are composing the commission with those individuals who have knowledge, who have expertise with regards to the different laws that we have. So majority kasi, although we know it for a fact that human right abuses or physical abuses, but by definition, human rights violations are actually violations that are in contradictory with our existing rules with regards to how we treat each and every individual, Kaya may legalities around the issues that are being tackled, so that makes them decides that makes them require that those members of the commission should be at least, or should be, or must be a lawyer, Now, with regards to the creation of the commission, after the ratification of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, no, uh, they provide or they establish the Commission on Human Rights that's under the presidency of the late President Corazon Aquino, no, which she signed the Executive Order number 163, no, creating the Commission on Human Rights and abolish the so-called Presidential Committee on Human Rights. So we made mention of that kanina, no, that before we don't have Commission on Human Rights, we have the so-called Presidential Committee on Human Rights. But when they changed the Constitution, they remove or they abolished the Presidential Committee on Human Rights under the Office of the President and created independent commission that will make sure that all of the human rights violations are properly investigated, are properly taken into considerations, and the rights of those oppressed are being protected. You know? Now, the commission was created. No, the commission was created as an independent office. No, and their mandate was to investigate, no, investigate complaints of human rights violations. No, they also are mandated to promote, no, the protection of protection, respect, and the enhancement of people's human rights, no, including civil and political rights. No? So, minsan kasi nakikita lang natin the issues on human rights. No? Naririnig natin ang Commission on Human Rights once that there was, pag may patayang nangyayari during police operations. But that should not be the case. Ano? Kasi when we are talking about human rights, it's not just talk about we are not just talking about the fundamental right to live or right to life, no? We should also talk about the other aspects or other rights of the individual, such as his political rights, no? Halimbawa, yung isang tao hindi napayagan or hindi pinayagang bumoto, that is a human rights violation. So, we actually hear less of issues minsan pagdating sa mga ganito. It seems that the Commission on Human Rights are focusing on those violations or those alleged violation on human rights that has something to do with killing. So though we understand naman that of course other than the different rights, ang pinakamahalaga naman talaga is our right to life, ano? But still, we should not only focus our attention to one specific rights, and we should also consider the different civil rights, political rights, and even the labor rights of each and every individual. Halimbawa, once a child is being victimized of either the so-called yung mga rebelde and so on, hindi siya nababanggit, ano? Kaya minsan talagang inuugnay nila ang Commission on Human Rights doon sa mga leftist organization, mga rebel group because of that, ano? They keep their mouth shut when it comes to issues that has something to do with the use of children, no, sa sa armadong digmaan ng mga rebelde o makakaliwang grupo, ano? But if that involves the government now, ano, diyan naman sila nag-iingay. Though I believe still on the commission, no, ako'y naniniwala pa rin na nagagampanan pa rin ng commission ang kanyang tungkulin, but we should try to remove yung ating personal biases. Like for example, if you're pro or against the administration, we should keep that aside from our responsibilities, especially in the commission, and we should focus really on matters that has something to do and will benefit the common good of the entire population, and not just for some political biases or political agendas and so on. Kasi human rights is created to protect each and every citizen regardless of who you are, regardless of your belief, regardless of your economic status, regardless of your positions, regardless of your social status. those should not be considered. What should be considered is that all of us, since we are living in this country, the commission should focus in protecting our rights as a citizen of this country, and should not be focusing on matters that has something to do with politics and so on, no? Para mas maging maayos, no? Para mas maging kumbaga is mas makuha or magawa ng komisyon yung kanyang tungkulin, no? As mandated under or as mandated by the Constitution. Well, when we are talking about the mandates, do we know the different mandates or functions of the commission? Ano nga ba yung purpose ng pagkakatatag ng Commission on Human Rights? So according to the reference that we have, the commission derives its mandates from the Constitution itself. Okay? So it's the Philippine Constitution that provided them with their powers and functions and responsibilities as a commission. No? The relevant domestic law was the basis of its mandate. The 8th core of international human rights instrument to which the Philippines is a part, were all the basis, as well as yung pinag-uusapan natin under United Nations Human Rights Convention, doon sa kanilang proclamation, as we discussed, the UN proclamation in relation to human rights, doon sila humugot or kumuha ng mga tinatawag lang mandates and functions of the commission. We have here under section 18 of the Article 13 of the Philippine Constitution, the government accordingly has the duty to protect the civil and the political rights of citizens in the Philippines. Based doon sa ating Philippine Constitution, the Commission has a broad mandate, which if we are going to categorize, it can be categorized as follows. So we have 3 categories here. We have the mandates on the human rights protection, human rights promotion, and human rights policies. So the Philippine Constitution discusses or provided 3 functions for the Commission on Human Rights. So ito yung kanilang responsibility with regards to human rights protection. Ang kanilang mandates is to investigate yung mga complaints of violation, including yung mga powers and services that could help them in investigation of civil kasali yan. If there are civil rights violations, the human rights, the Commission on Human Rights has the duty to protect those groups or those individuals that are being victimized by such civil rights abuses. Kasali din dyan yung political rights, as well as economic, social, and cultural rights. So ang dami nilang dapat pagtuunan ng pansin. Halimbawa na nga lang sa cultural rights natin, there are instances na kung saan our cultures are being attacked, our culture are being sinisira, ninanakaw, something like that. Dami, But we less often heard the human rights, the Commission on Human Rights talk about this. I don't know if it was just me or talagang hindi lang masyadong nabibigyan ng focus kapag gumagalaw ang Commission with regards to other form of human rights violations. We also have here, by the way, kasali din kasi dyan yung citing for contempt, it's part of their power, to have that citing for contempt for violation of its rule. Kapag merong mga rules under Commission on Human Rights, they can be able to, or they are capable of putting you or cite you in contempt. We have also the legal aid and counseling. That's part of their human rights protection program. Tumutulong sila sa mga individual, na kung saan is they are being victimized or they're being abused of human rights violations. or they are being victim of human rights violation, and then they don't have the financial capability to seek for justice, di ba? Pag ikaw ay biktima ng pang-abuso, no, inabuso ang iyong karapatang pantao, pero ikaw ay walang kakayahan upang magsampa ng kaso or makipag-dialogo sa loob ng korte, no? The human rights, no? The Commission on Human Rights has the responsibility to provide you with legal assistance, no? Legal assistance as well as counseling too, no? They also have the visitorial powers over jails and detention facilities, no? To make sure that indeed the different correctional institution that we have are still respecting the human rights of each and every individual, each and every resident, no, in that facilities, no. So they can, or they have the power to go into the different jails, no, para kamustahin, silipin ang kalagayan ng mga kapatid natin na nasa loob, no, kung tama nga ba ang treatment sa kanila, no, kung ibibigay nga ba yung kanilang mga pangangailangan at walang pang-aabuso sa kanilang karapatang pantao sa loob ng ating mga kulungan, okay? So we also have here, no, the application of forensic techniques in the aid of investigation, no, witness protection, and financial assistance also to the victims. When this created, nagkaroon ng revisitation of different case, kasi we know for a fact that it's part of human rights, di ba? We have the right to liberty and so on. Marami tayong mga kapatid, no, na kung saan is nandoon sila sa kulungan and they were accused of a crime that hindi naman nila ginawa, despite they're being even convicted for a crime na hindi naman nila ginawa. So it's part of the responsibility of the Commission on Human Rights to visit those cases, especially with regards to to the evidence presented. They should try to look into those cases kasi baka mamaya, no, may mga kapatid tayo doon na kung saan is nakulong nang wala naman talagang kasalanan. So they should capacitate themselves also with the different forensic techniques, no, that could be used for investigation, no, and that could be used for the protection also of their witnesses, para nang sa ganon they have the ability or they have the capability to review, no, the case, especially on the evidence presented that has something to do with the forensics, no. So ito yung mga iba't ibang human rights protection program that the Commission on Human Rights are involved into, So I really do hope that, of course, the Commission on Human Rights are true to their functions, and they are really doing the mandate of the Constitution as to the purpose of the Commission. We also have here, under the second category of the responsibility of the Commission is the human rights promotion, So the human rights promotion includes the wide range of strategies for policy, advocacy, promotion, social mobilization, education. As you all know, ngayon sa natin, sa kurso natin sa criminology, before, nung kami nag-aaral, we haven't discussed the issues, or we haven't discussed the topic on human rights. It's not part of the curriculum, But later on, nagkaroon na tayo ng revisions of the different curriculum in alignment with the K-12 program, naipasok na rin nila dito yung tinatawag nating human rights education as a mandatory course for our profession, So that's one, or that's part of the human rights promotion. Kasi when we are learning about human rights, we are also gaining knowledge and understanding on the concept of human rights, and with the hope, of course, that we would be much professional on how we deal with each other, as we know what are the rights that are entitled to each and every one, I remember during our times, the only part of the course that we discussed about human rights was probably under the 1987 Philippine Constitution, Doon lang nababanggit yung mga karapatan, especially under the Bill of Rights, But to have a wide understanding, or a broad understanding with regards to the concept of human rights, nationally, internationally, locally, no, it's very much important. No? So, you're very lucky to have this subject kasi ngayon pa lang nagkakaroon na kayo ng idea with regards to the basics of human rights. And when you go further with your profession, I know that you will be encountering much of this, no? As this is already problem that must be addressed, no, by the future generation. Okay? So that's part of the human rights promotion. Ano pa yung mga pwede nilang gawin dyan? Yung mga human rights advocacy, no? Yung mga social mobilization, no? Training with regards to this, no? Public information, no? Communication, research, and networking and linkages. Those are the different strategies that they could adopt in order to promote further the human rights, no? To promote further awareness on the human rights, no? Of each and every individual, no? Sabi ko nga minsan, the reason behind kung bakit yung ibang tao, no, ay nabibiktima, naluloko, nagagancho, it's because they don't know their rights, no? Like for example, meron yung mga tao na inaabuso na pala, hindi nila alam, no? Hindi nila alam na sila ay being subjected already to human rights violation, no? Pumapayag na lang sila na ganun ang treatment sa kanila, pumapayag na lang sila na ganun ang binibigay sa kanila. It's because they don't know their rights, no? And that's one of the reason why we have a lot of human rights abuses. But if you know your rights, you know how to protect yourself in terms of human rights violations. Like for example, simpleng example lang. If one person will come into our house, no, pumunta sila dito and they said, may hahanapin nga akong kahit sabihin na natin they're police officers, they're government employee, they're public officials, pumunta sila dito, no? And sabi, may nag-tip sa amin na yung bahay nyo daw is ginagawang sugalan, ginagawang bentahan ng drugs or whatsoever. Okay? So that's the example. Example lang naman. No? So, because of either the coercive appearance or approach of those individuals, kung hindi ko alam yung aking karapatan, I may agree na, sige, pumasok kayo. Kung matatakot ako or magpapa-intimidate ako sa kanilang presence. No? But then, kapag ikaw naman ay taong alam mo yung iyong karapatan, ipapayag ka ba? No? Yun yung tanong, papayag ka ba na pumasok sila without asking, do you have a search warrant? Do you have these documents? No? Is this legal? Is this a legal operation and whatsoever? If I know my rights regarding such violation, especially with regards to my security and my protection on privacy, my rights of privacy, and my right to deny their entry and whatsoever, I know how to defend myself against that blatant form of abuse, of human rights abuse. Malalaman mo agad na, teka lang, mukhang mali yata itong ginagawa nila. So I will not allow them to do it because they are not operating legally. They do not comply with regards to the mandate of the law in terms of the waiver of, search and seizure. So, hindi sila pwedeng pumasok dyan nang wala silang ganitong dalang dokumento and whatsoever. But if I don't know my rights, I would probably just allow them to enter. Baka kung hindi ko alam ang aking karapatan pagdating sa mga ganyan, edi hahayaan ko na lang silang pumasok. Ang mahirap pa niyan kung may sinuksok silang droga, sinuksok silang paraphernalia sa kung saang parte ng bahay, then accordingly is meron silang nahanap na evidence that it's positive that I could be arrested. I could be arrested. And if I don't know how to defend my rights onto that circumstances, wala na. Baka makulong na ako na kung saan is wala naman akong ginagawang masama or wala naman akong ginagawang kasalanan. So it's very important indeed that we know our different rights as a human being. We know our political rights, our civil rights, and the different rights that are accorded to us since we are a citizen of this country. It's very important. So that's one of the function of the Commission on Human Rights. To educate the citizens about their different rights, to educate them, to inform them of what are their rights, no, that is accorded to them, for them to be able to protect themselves against any form of human rights abuses. Okay? Next, human rights policy. So we are talking about the creation of policies. No? So human rights, no, has the duty to advise, the government on how they would comply with regards to the different treaties, the different covenant that we have now with other countries. Isa yan, pag may mga batas silang ipinapasa, make sure that they would consult the Commission on Human Rights with regards to the validity of the law, in terms of human rights and other issues that has something to do with human rights violation. So bago ipasa ang batas, tignan muna kung ito nga ba is in compliance with the different rights that we have, because if not, then that would be considered as unconstitutional. Kaya marami tayong mga batas na kung saan is nababasura kahit na ipasa na siya sa Congress and Senate, na permahan na ng presidente, na kumbaga is nire-review nila yung batas na yan if there are human rights issues that were not properly addressed during its creation. So with regards to the basis of the treaties that we have, dapat nakatingin tayo sa lahat ng yan, kasi when we are talking about human rights, we're not just focused on one manual. We are talking, as mentioned in our previous discussion, that marami tayong pwedeng tignan dyan. Like for example, ito. First is the ICCPR. Yun yung meron tayo ngayon with regards to political rights. Kapag ang issues is with regards to political rights or civil rights being violated, tumingin ka doon sa tinatawag nating International Covenant on the Civil and Political Rights. Nandun yung mga rights that should be protected, that should be honored, and many more. Kapag ang violation naman is with regards to social and cultural rights, tignan naman natin yung International Covenant on Social and Cultural Rights. So if that is a cultural rights violations, or form of abuses, then we have to look into the International Covenant that discusses such issues. Pag yan naman ay with regards to torture and other degrading treatment or punishment, tingin ka doon sa CAT or yung tinatawag nating Convention Against Torture and Other Degrading Treatment or Punishment for yung mga detainees, prisoners, and so on. So we have also, pag pinag-uusapan naman natin is with regards to discrimination involving women, So if they feel to be discriminated, if there is a law that was created or policy of the government that was created that violates the so-called that discriminates women among men, so look into the convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, So pagdating kasi sa discrimination against women, pwedeng papasok dyan with regards to politics, pwedeng papasok dyan with regards to job opportunities, pwedeng papasok dyan yung mga ordinances na kung saan is pinagbabawal yung mga ganitong appearance, especially for women. I heard, meron yung na-issue kailan-kailan lang na kung saan yung merong ordinansa na pinasa yung isang lugar na yan, na kung saan nagbabawal sa mga kababaihan na magsuot ng short, paglalabas ng bahay, So for me, I consider that as a discrimination on the part of a woman. Ano naman ang implication ba ng pagsusuot ng short, or sa mga clothing preferences na yan, as long as it is not considered as a taboo in our community, So wala naman siyang implication. Parang ang ano ba ang dahilan nila, bakit nila pinagbawal ang ganyan? Are they pointing out that such thing would be the cause of criminality, kapag ikaw ba ay babae na nagsusuot ka ng short, would that cause criminality, So that is again victim blaming. So that issue itself is already unconstitutional or in violation of the so-called Convention on the Discrimination or under the elimination of discrimination against women. And it's a discrimination on the part of the woman na sila ay pipigil lang magsuot ng ganito at it's because for whatever reason that they use why they created such ordinances. But I believe it's under review, binabasa, nire-review na nila yung ordinances na yun. But make sure to try to rationalize everything na kung saan, especially if there is something like that gender sensitive, kumbaga if ang pinagbabawal lang yan is pagsusuot ng ganito ng specific gender, baka tignan nyo, if hindi yan papasok doon sa tinatawag nating gender discrimination. Now, we have also here, pag ang mga issues naman is patungkol sa mga racial discrimination, ang titignan mo dyan is the Convention Against Racial Discrimination. The Commission on Human Rights will also make sure that there is no such law or there is no law that will be passed that would promote yung mga racial discrimination na yan. And if that involves naman yung mga children, so dapat ina-assure din ng commission na kung saan is yung mga batas na yan ay for the best interest of the child, and there's no law na dapat maipasa that would of course violate the rights of the child. We have also here the Convention on the Protection of Migrant Workers and their Families, and for issues that has something to do with the migrant workers and their families, we should have, or the Commission on Human Rights should also make sure that no such thing exists, especially yung mga kababayan natin that working abroad. The Commission on Human Rights should also assure or make sure that those individuals working abroad are also protected, that their rights are also being protected. So hindi lang yung ating office of the OWA ang in charge diyan, dapat silipin din ng ating Commission on Human Rights yung mga issues na ito, na kung saan meron yung mga inaabuso, na kung saan na mga workers abroad, so dapat tignan din nila yon. Pagdating naman sa mga abuses or discrimination involving the persons with disability, tingin ka lang doon sa tinatawag nating CRPD, which talks about or discusses the rights of the person with disabilities. Kasi meron din tayong mga abuses or meron din tayong mga discriminations involving the our brothers na PWD. So sila ay dapat ding naproprotektahan ng ating komisyon at nasisiguro na ang kanilang mga karapatan bilang tao ay nirerespeto ng bawat sekta ng ating lipunan. Okay? So this also includes the entire aspect of monitoring, evaluating the performance of the three branches of the government: the executive, legislative, and the judiciary. To make sure that the human rights that we made mention are properly observed in the three branches. Sa executive dyan, nangunguna dyan of course yung ating mga law enforcement agencies, because they're involved in enforcing the law, and that's part of the executive power. So sila na nag-enforce ng ating mga batas ay dapat tinitignan talaga na ang kanilang pagpapatupad ng batas ay sang-ayon sa ating mandate with regards to human right protection. But that should not be limited onto that. Yung mga gumagawa din ng batas under the legislative branch, they should make sure that all the law that they're creating or passing are in accordance, of course, with the human rights mandates, the protection on human rights that the government should be focusing into. So, yan yung isang responsibility din nila. Ang sisilipin nila dyan ay yung mga pwedeng human rights issues na pwedeng lumabas diyan sa mga batas na kanilang ginagawa. So, under that, kasali na rin yan yung mga ordinances. So, dapat ang komisyon tignan niya rin yung mga ordinansa na pinapasa sa mga lugar, sa mga probinsya, sa mga munisipyo ating bansa, no, ng iba't ibang rehiyon sa ating bansa, dahil minsan may mga nakakalusot talaga na kung saan is can be considered as human rights violation. Okay? I'll give you an example. Ano, meron tayo dito yung four lane na yan. I will consider that indeed as discrimination onto the part of the motorcycle rider, tricycle drivers, and so on. No, biruin mo, no, sa ating kalsada meron tayong tinatawag na the ordinances. No, I observed that dito sa amin in the province where I came from too, no, doon sa pinagtrabahuan ko meron din yan. And I do believe baka provincial-wide din ito. Now, wherein they're requiring, indeed, mandating that those motorcycle or, how do you call this? Single motorcycle or motorized tricycle should travel the outer lane of the road, no? Eh, problema doon, hindi man maayos ang daan, no? Mag-require sila that ito dapat ang daanan ng mga ganitong drivers, no, ng mga ganitong sasakyan, eh hindi naman maayos. So that is discrimination to the part of, isipin mo naman, no, that we are all paying our taxes, no, equally in proportion to what we are earning. But why are the rest of the drivers or yung mga gumagamit ng ating kalsada are being mandated to travel the less maintained part of the road, no? 'Di ba that is discriminatory? Parehas lang tayong nagbabayad ng buwis, bakit dito mo pa dadaanin itong drivers na ito just because they're riding such thing, no? We understand naman that indeed we have the so-called the path for the fast-moving vehicle and the slow-moving vehicle. That's true, no? But that could be applicable if the road are properly maintained and talagang meron yung tinatawag nating outer lane and inner lane. But here in provinces, naku, Diyos ko, no? Wala naman masyadong may ganyan na may 4 lane talaga. Sometimes kasi the different provinces or LGUs are considering the shoulder as an outer lane. That is very discriminatory, ano? Kapag mag-mandate ka ng ganyan, make sure that the infrastructure are properly maintained, ano? Magpasa ka ng mga ordinances na ganyan, eh wala pa namang nagagawang 4 lane, then you are discriminating the rest of the drivers, the rest of the riders in the use of roads. So we should have the equal protection, you know. We should have the rights to equal to enjoy the same to enjoy equal rights as the others. But such ordinances, no, or such rules, no, imposed by different provinces or LGUs are really unfair for me, no. So I don't know if you had experienced that, especially if you're riding your motorcycle and whatsoever, no? That's even, takaw aksidente yan. Kasi sabi ko nga, hindi naman maintain yung kanilang mga road na kung saan mas na-expose pa yung mga drivers natin sa mga aksidente if they are mandating such thing. Eh, mahirap pa dyan, mumultahin ka kapag ikaw ay dumaan doon sa inner lane, no? Yeah. So next we have here the limitation of functions. What is the limitation of functions of the commission, no, on the Commission of Human Rights? The Supreme Court of the Philippines declared that the commission do not possess the power of adjudication, and they emphasizes that its function were primarily investigatory. So they don't have the authority to hold trial. Ano? If there is a human rights violation, it's not the Commission on Human Rights that should should initiate a trial. Ang gagawin lang nila is to investigate and submit the report, no, to the appropriate authorities for further review if there is indeed human rights violations. For example, one police officer had allegedly committed a human rights violation in the conduct of his operation. So what should the Commission on Human Rights do is to conduct their own independent investigation, and whatever their finding was, they should submit that to the proper authority as sila ang mag-take into consideration if there's a need to file a case or file a charge, or there's a need to punish the individual involved. So they themselves, no, the commission, don't have the right to held or to hold a trial. No? Hindi sila pwedeng conduct ng trial. They're not a trial court, no? In short. Their power is limited to investigation in terms of or in line with the human rights violation. Okay? So the power and function of the Commission on Human Rights, these are their following powers and functions. No? Una, pinag-usapan na natin to kanina, investigation. No? They have the power to investigate on their own, no, on complaint by any party, all forms of human rights violation involving civil and political rights. So once there was human rights violation, no, you can tap the Commission on Human Rights to conduct, no, conduct an investigation relative to the complaint being filed by them. No, for example, I feel that my rights was violated by certain executive leader, by a certain individual, by a certain group, by the law enforcer, and so on. Now, I could tap the Commission on Human Rights. No, I could file a complaint to the Commission on Human Rights regards this alleged human rights violation, and the Commission on Human Rights will see to it, will try to investigate and try to consider my point and see to it if what's the possible action that must be conducted. No? They also have the power to adopt operational guidelines and rules of procedure, no? Or they can cite for contempt, no? Those individuals who had committed human rights violation in accordance with with the rule of court, no? They have also the power, or they should provide appropriate, no? They have the responsibility or functions to provide appropriate legal measures for the protection of human rights of all persons, no, within the Philippines, as well as the Filipinos residing abroad. We made mention that kanina, no, they should not focus only to those citizens who are here in our country, but also they should see to it that the rights of those individuals abroad, no, Filipino individuals abroad, are being protected as well, no, and they should provide for preventive measures, no, and legal aid, including services to the underprivileged individual whose human rights have been violated, or those individuals who need protection. Yan. So for example, ang isang tao na walang pera-pera, no, inabuso ng isang political leaders, no, inabuso ng inabuso ng isang kilalang tao, no, pwede siyang pumunta, magpatulong doon sa Commission on Human Rights for such issue, as long as we are talking about human rights violation. But of course, na lahat naman ng form of oppression are indeed considered as human rights violations. Ano? So, let's take this an example na lang. Halimbawa, si Pedro ay isang magsasaka, ano? Inagaw yung kanyang lupa ng mayor ng kanilang lugar at hindi naman siya binigyan ng bayad. Okay? So with that, alam mo na, mahirap namang pumunta ka sa kapulisan, magsampa ng kaso, isa ka lang ordinaryong mamamayan, ano, wala ka pang pera, ang kalaban mo pa, mayor. So, saan ka dapat niyan pupunta? No? Pwede kang pumunta sa Commission on Human Rights and help their assistance with regards to the issues being cited. Ano? Pwede ka nilang tulungan kasi isa yan sa kanilang trabaho dapat. Okay? So, we have here also their exercise, or their functions to exercise visitorial powers over jails, prison, and detention facilities. No? So we made mention of this kanina, that the Commission on Human Rights, no, have the authority, or yes, they have the function to visit. No? Meron silang authority to visit yung mga jails natin, yung mga prisons or detention, to make sure that indeed these different correctional institutions are respecting the individual rights, no, despite those resident in the prisons or jails are already convicted criminals or accused criminals, no, undergoing cases or whatsoever, no, they deserve still to be treated humanely as possible, no. So they should make sure that they know the situation of our brothers and sisters inside the prisons, no? Dapat alam nila yan at dapat binibisita talaga nila yan. Okay? Establish a continuing program of research, education, and information to enhance the respect for the primacy of human rights. No? They also have the rights or functions to recommend to the Congress effective measures to promote human rights and to provide for compensation for victims, no, of human rights violations and also to their families. So, isa yan sa kanilang functions. Ano? Make sure that those human rights victims are properly compensated. No? Kasi, yeah, when that is human rights violations, there's indeed a need for compensation kasi nga biktima din sila dyan eh. No? So some of the funds of the human rights, the Commission on Human Rights goes to the compensation to victims. I don't know lang if it's really being given. They also have the power and function to monitor the Philippine government's compliance with regards to the international treaty, the obligation on human rights. Kaya minsan kung question nila yung ginagawa ng gobyerno, lalo na kung ang paniniwala nila is that is not compliant to the international treaties which our country is a member, is a part, yan yung mga basis nila usually. So sometimes they are described as against the government, but it's not really the case, Ang tinitignan lang nila ay if compliant ba ang ating gobyerno sa human rights treaties na meron tayo at yung mga karapatan ng mga mamamayan ay nirerespeto ba ng ating gobyerno, They also have the power and function to grant immunity, from prosecution yung mga persons whose testimony or witness, or whose possession of documents and other evidences is necessary or convenient to the determination of truth in any investigation conducted by it or under its authority. So etong grant of immunity kasi they could abuse this one. For example, isang anti-government and whatsoever that allege that the government or conducting human rights or doing human rights violation against its citizen. Pag nagsalita ito, syempre magtatago yan. Saan yan magtatago? Pwedeng yung kupkupin ng Commission on Human Rights because they have the right to grant immunity sa mga involved sa mga ganitong issues, especially if they're against the government. So this part of the functions are really can be abused. They can use this to justify or to impede the legal proceedings, especially if that is motivated really by political agendas, They can also request the assistance of any department, bureau, office, or agency in the performance of its function. They can appoint its officers and employees in accordance with the law. And lastly, they can perform any other duties and functions as may be provided by the law. Okay? So that's our brief discussion with regards to the Commission on Human Rights. Do we have any questions? May tanong po kayo? May tanong? Wala. Okay. Wala na. Sure na yan. Okay. Anyway, if there are no more questions then, as I've stated, this will be the last topic for midterm, and everything that we discuss from the start, from the start of the prelim until midterm will be the coverage of your midterm exam. So, ayan, I just need to upload or re-upload the module on human rights para updated. Kasi yung part na itong last na diniscuss natin, hindi pa kasali dun sa module. So, ma-update na naman siya for the basis of your review. Since your exam will be next week, following, I guess, the time, kung hindi sila magbaba ng schedule for the exam, susundin na naman pa rin natin yung oras ng exam natin. And this time, hindi na madedelay yung exam natin since we know already the schedule. Okay? Wala nang tanong, clarification, or anything. So, thanks, Miss Laika, for the attendance. Okay. So, I guess we can call it a day. Thank you for attending our class. I hope I was able to impart some valuable knowledge with regards to the topic that we discussed. That's it for today, guys. See you on the next lecture. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, bye-bye. Bye-bye, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, sir.
Bye. Bye-bye.